as far as the leadership is concerned, I'm there to comment. And when it comes to politics, he's been there for long. My parliamentary performance is way ahead of him. Wow. And yet I just came the other day. When it comes to matters of legislation, I just want to demonstrate to him that is not an issue of how many years you've been there.
I think Chris cannot go unsupported because I think it's unfair for us to mislead the world that leadership is only about age. Age is just one of the parameters that define leadership, qualities of leader. And I think, look at Barack Obama. He's retiring at the age of, 50-something years.
55.
After being president at the age of 44. Absolutely. So he could be young and wise. Exactly. So let us not dismiss Chris, my friend here, just because he's young.
Yeah.
In fact,
when you come to the culture and
he's
about leadership,
culture. Yeah, but
leadership,
he respects the culture.
Fine. People for what they have done for this country.
I think age in itself is not enough.
Please bring some sanity to this debate.
Okay, what I think I agree, even youth can also lead. Yes. But when they criticize older people, they should also use good language.
Okay, gentlemen. Let's take a break so that we can calm down. Let's take a break.
Old, this side are young. That's how we divide it.
Let's take a break so that we can calm down and discuss the headlines of the day. Power Breakfast returns. Yes, indeed, it's getting heated up in here. This is Power Breakfast on Citizen TV, and we continue with our news review this morning with Njogu Barua, MP Gishugu, Chris Wamalwa, MP Kiminini, Barak Muluka, political analyst, and Kimani Ngonjiri, MP from Bahati. Now, let's take a look at the headlines this morning, the real headlines, what is on the newspapers. And going through the headlines, and one of those that I want us to start with has to do with the doctor's strike, of course. Today is the 37th day since that strike kicked off. Still no end in sight. Yesterday, after a meeting between government officials and the Council of Governors, which was not attended by union officials representing doctors, after that, the COG just gave an ultimatum. Get back to work by Wednesday or be fired. Now, my main question was, is this the right way to handle this situation that has persisted for so long? Bwana Njogu Barua had given you an opportunity to comment on this, but you went into other matters.
Yes, let me just comment on that now. I would like to say that this issue about doctor strike is a very sad issue to Kenyans, because to begin with, people are dying and people are suffering. And people who are suffering and dying are not from one political side of the divide or the other. They are not from one tribe or the other. They are Kenyans in general. Kenyans are suffering. And we should all work together and ensure that this is put to an end. What I would like, the two issues I would like to say here is that, first of all, this is a charity to devolution. There have been constant criticism of the national government by the county governors. The health is devolved. So the biggest responsibility on health and management of health facilities and health personnel is with the governors now, because they're the ones who do the payment. Now, they say that the national government also has a responsibility. So I want to put it across that there's need now for a more serious bipartisan approach, whereby the national government sits in good faith with the county leadership. The other thing I would like to say is that there must be an end to everything, or something that begins like that. People cannot continue dying forever. Doctors have...
Although death will continue forever.
Yeah, okay, fine, but not through not carelessness. Yeah. Yes. What I'm saying is that doctors should not also go to negotiations with a very hard-line position. Negotiation is about give and take. So they should be open to negotiation, and if to avoid this continuous dying of people, they can actually maybe give the government a certain window of opportunity to negotiate, is they go back to work and save the lives of Kenyans. Yes. So what I would like to say is that we need goodwill from the practitioners themselves and from the government, in both the county and national government. This is a national issue. This is an issue where every Kenyan should get involved in.
Well, Chris Wamalwa, the question again is, do you think ultimatum to return to work or be fired is the best way to approach this issue?
This is a very, very wrong approach. First and foremost, the buck stops at the president. And I want to disagree with Honorable Barua, saying that this is a devolved matter.
It is.
When it comes to matters of salary and remuneration, this is a national function. And when this CBA was done, it was done with the national government. Maybe the full meaning of CBA, this is a collective bargaining agreement where the two parties came together, they had their interests, and they agreed that this is what we've agreed, and we're going to achieve it within a specific time frame. So the doctors waited for that time frame. The time frame came. Nothing was forthcoming. So as stipulated in our constitution, the actual right to go on the strike. But the government, what should have done, calling these people, coming together, and making them understand, why is it that we agreed that we are supposed to be paid certain amount of money or certain increment? It has not been done. Maybe because the money that was made to pay them has been misappropriated, maybe through NYS or Eurobond or whatever the case. And these are the reasons, gentlemen, understand. So let's extend it maybe within 2 or 3 years so that we can be able to look into or to justify. Or you don't come with death ultimatums. Again, in our constitution, and the president took office on oath, that is there to go and defend the constitution of this country. In the Bill of Rights, every Kenyan is entitled to emergency health care. The president has been all of us talking about the free maternity. Where is the free maternity? How is it going to be offered? And yet people are dying, the doctors are not there. So the buck still stops at the president. He has to call back the union, the governors, so that they sit around the table and be able to see how do we solve this matter? Because really, the president cannot run away from this and leave it to the governors. No. Even if you employ a doctor in Embu, a different county, and another one in West Pokot, there is a streamlined salary, and SRC must be in this. So here, as we speak, the president cannot run away from this.
Ngojiri, do you agree with Chris Wamalwa that the president has to come back again and renegotiate this? Remember last week he called this union officials to State House Mombasa, put a deal on the table. The doctor said no, and here we are.
I think what we should be talking here is not about the president, because these people are sick with the president. They think nothing else. The president must go, the president must do. This is an issue for Kenyans. And this is something we should sit down, all of us. But sometimes we mistake on thinking just the president, just the president. Even if another president comes, these issues should still be there. I think the right thing is to say that, okay, they agreed and they entered in the agreement. So that's where the national government, it is involved. So, and I think when it was devolved, it went to the county government. There's still tie in between, because the government was involved on that. So they need to discuss. But also the other thing we need to see, the money they are asking, maybe it is just too much. We might not be having that money. Let's not mix that in national service or all this. These are just politics. Let's talk about the issue which is ahead of us. There is a problem. Our people are dying. What are we supposed to do? And for me, there are many things we need to rectify so that we can have enough money for the doctors. The doctors need money, I agree. They do a lot of work.
Do you agree with the approach by governors that an ultimatum would work?
That one I agree with them. This something should be done, different approach. And I think they were almost somewhere to agree. Because if two people are racing, they'll reach somewhere, all of them. They will feel tired and they feel that we can talk. I think we had approached now there, the issue of now saying what are they supposed to do. But going back on the problem we are having, don't talk about national service, those are petty things. Let's talk about that there is a problem with the constitution. To me, we need to look at the money from the constitution. Why do we have 290 MPs doing what? 290 MPs. Do you know how to maintain one MP, how expensive it is? It is too expensive. I went in Australia. One MP, he is controlling like Kenya itself as one MP, because there are other structures which are put there. And it makes his work to be easier. Why do we have something we talk, as he is talking here, we finish, we have voted that this bill. Then we still wait again. There's another senator somewhere going to sit dealing with the same issues. The same issues. Why do we have women left, giving them money, MP has money, the other people has money, all that money taking the constitution, and maybe they are not helping. We should look at the priorities. And the priorities is the doctors. We need to see, what do we do that we can be able to give the doctors enough money? They do a lot of work.
So we need to
and again, if you see the ratio of the doctor and the patient, it is so huge for the doctor. We need to look in a different way, but not putting politics, and see how do we help these people. To me, that is not the right approach, and we have to think, let's go to the countries. The money which have been misused there, actually, if it's taken care properly, and I have been saying myself from the word go, we were not supposed to devolve the health. Because it is something very important for a human being. It needed somebody who can pay attention quickly and see how they can be able to help them. But my issue with the governors is actually, let's see how we can end this thing on the dialogue so that people can be able to be treated. We have lost so many people. I've been in my constituency. We have been burying people from December. Every day, 5, 10 people.
Due to lack of access to health?
Exactly, it's a big problem.
Bwana Muluka, Bwana Ngojiri here says that the problem is more fundamental, that it has to do with the law as it is, that probably we are just going round and round in circles, and we should just go back and relook at the law and probably not devolve health services.
I don't think there's anything wrong with the law as it sits. The problem is greed. There's an unbridled greed within this society. And I'm afraid it starts in the August House, that each time a new cohort of legislators is voted in, the first thing they do is to award themselves with humongous pay packs. Now, society in which there's an unbridled, shameless, conspicuous consumption of the kind that you see within certain cadres, you cannot tell people who are providing very invaluable services like doctors that there is no money to pay you. There's a lot of money. And I also don't agree with Mheshimiwa here when he dismisses Mheshimiwa Chris that we cannot talk about NYS and the stealing and the scandals when a hairdresser is coming and telling people how she carried sacks upon sacks of money from a bank, and you are telling people who should be paid a just day's pay that there's no money and that we are playing politics. I don't think that we are playing politics. But there are two critical things here. Number one, that I think that the deal which the doctor signed with the government was a good deal. It was, in my view, done mischievously because it was known, and these things anyway preceded the Jubilee government, but it was known that county government was coming. I don't understand why an outgoing permanent secretary on a date after principal secretaries had been appointed and had been sworn in was signing an agreement with doctors. I don't know where he got the mandate to do that. I have had time to look at a copy of the signed CBA, and it's got very many flaws. If people wanted to be really honest, they would admit that there are flaws in this thing, that the Council of Governors was never involved. It should have been involved, at least within that 2013 season, after they had come into existence. And lots of things went wrong. Perhaps, I think, because the national government did not like the idea of devolving health and even devolving the funds. They kept the monies that were supposed to go to the counties for 3 years, the first 2 years, and this gentleman can confirm, the budget lines for the Ministry of Health remained the same as they had been, and the funds kept on escalating from about 40 million in 2013, 2014, to 60 billion, sorry, 40 billion to 60 billion, where we are today. You must ask what the national government is doing with those funds. Those are funds which should be devolved to follow their functions. And when you say that you are going to dismiss 4,500 doctors, you are like a child who is pounding water in a mortar and starting to think that something soft can come out of that. The employment of doctors itself, just one medical officer, is a whole process that we cannot understand how you are going to have them working under supervision by other doctors.
You're saying we cannot replace them
you
the
cannot.
way the Council of Governors
it is impossible. It is just utterly impossible. First, they are not available. And we have had things like, oh, we are going to bring in so many doctors from Cuba. When they get here speaking Portuguese, what kind of Portuguese are they going to be speaking with people?
You know, the president traveled to India yesterday, and some people
one of the missions, yes, is to get more doctors, and they're going to come here speaking Indian, Gujarati,
don't understand tropical medicine.
And all. They don't understand something called tropical epidemiology, which is about the incidence and the spread of diseases and how they manifest themselves. If you find somebody with anemia, for example, I'm not a doctor, but as a journalist, I make it my business to understand these things. You find somebody with anemia, say in Machakos, and another one with anemia, say in Turkana, the causes and even the condition that you are treating is going to be completely different. So you have got to understand the geography of disease, the incidence, the manifestation, and how to intervene. To say nothing about so many other things like how one is going to get registered as a doctor first in this country, what kinds of standards are supposed to be employed before you get there. So this is a bad joke. And finally,
Bad one.
it is something called intransigence. That is the problem here, that you even send negotiators who get to the negotiating table with puffed up egos.
Yes.
That there's a PS and a cabinet secretary who have yet to learn the first lesson in diplomacy and how to talk to people. You don't talk to doctors as if you are talking to just some heap of rubbish. These are people we have taken years to train in these academies for the longest possible time. And the first thing that we did when we started training them was to expose them to dead bodies, which they were dissecting, and they learned to live with and even eat from there. And we took them back to university for so many years. Well, and you are thinking you are going to intimidate them.
Well, as it stands, the headline reads, striking doctors given notice to resume work or face the sack. And according to the Council of Governors, that should happen as early as tomorrow. We just have to wait and see if that will indeed happen. Let's take a look at another headline now, and this has to do with education. A quick look at education. Of course, after the applause that CS Fred Matiang'i received in his handling of the national exams last year, now we see criticism coming, even from some quarters that initially were in support of the same reforms in education. The KNUT Secretary General Witso Sossion has demanded for an audit of the KCSE exam results for 2016, and he says those results were, in his words, fake. Yeah. Now, I don't know, because with the kind of applause that Bwana Matiang'i has received, do you understand where Bwana Sossion could be coming from, Bwana Barua?
I think I'd like to start from where we said even the condemnation is coming from some people who initially supported the activity, the process. The reforms. Yes. The reforms, yes. I think I, as a Kenyan and a panelist today, I'd like to say that I would like to start by supporting what Matiang'i is doing. And I also want to say that people like Wilson Sossion have their rights to demand whatever they're demanding. If it's an audit, forensic, whatever it is, they have the right to do it. But I think all of us, as you ask for such corrective actions, if they are necessary at all, you also have to ask for them from a position of not inciting Kenyans against others, or even inciting Kenyans against an education system. What is happening is that Kenyans, we have heard from the general public, and I'm sure you have also been here, people are happy with Matiang'i because the examination, especially the Form 4 examination, had become like a business. It's alleged that some people are buying papers, and some schools are getting more A's than even C's. In fact, there was even a joke that one particular school had more A's in its name than what they scored. After having scored 202 A's last year, the other year, then this other year, 2016, they scored 2 A's only. I think there's a need to actually reform the education system. And what Matiang'i has done, he has just started a long journey which is going to continue. And I hope he's going to continue doing that work, and the CSs who come after him will continue the momentum.
But of course, with the drastic change in how the results came out, of course, from more than 2,000 A's the previous year to only 141 last year, of course, the questions have to be asked. Yes, we do understand there have been reforms. We do understand, if we could take it in a simplistic way, that yes, there was cheating. That cheating seems to have ended. But that change is drastic by any standards. Bwana Sossion could be right in saying we need to audit the results.
First and foremost, I want to salute Matiang'i. Matiang'i, we differ in many ways. For instance, I brought a bill in Parliament in terms of ranking so that we can be able to know how have these people performed. And we wanted this bill to be in place based on the real performance, not the issue of cheating. It is true, in the Kenya National Examination Council, we've had cases of exam leakages. We saw in WhatsApp groups, we were seeing exams circulating, and the following day, it was the same. So really, what Matiang'i has done, everybody needs to salute and say, this is very good. So if at all we have that drastic change in terms of performance of A's, then it reflects that then there was so much leakages. If at all you are seeing all over in WhatsApp groups the same exam that is coming the following day, of course, it explains why that performance was that way. So the issue that Matiang'i has put in place, I salute that. And look at this Sossion, where it's coming from. We need to look at where this Sossion is coming from. He represents teachers, isn't it? And Matiang'i has been record saying the teachers who performed poorly, they are going to be suspended or demoted. So it is an issue results-based management. You're going to be promoted based on the performance. Already as a representative of the teachers, obviously, you'll not want to go there. Absolutely, there are conflicts of interest here. Absolutely, the conflicts of interest are there. Okay? So the issue is this. The way that it was distributed, as a researcher, I also find a problem. And for you to call for an audit, I don't think it's a bad idea. Particularly when you know that this exam was done properly or the marking was done properly. So it is his right to request for an audit. And looking at the Constitution, Article 35, where they say every Kenyan has free to access to information. Of course, Sosioni has a right. So let's do an audit. If there's nothing to hide, I don't see why Matiang'i should refuse. But to me as a researcher, even if the exam was leakages was that way, we need to look at the normal distribution. At least there must be a normal distribution curve, whereby the majority, I think around 68%, should be around the middle. And then we have about 16% on the extreme failing and the other 16% extreme pass. So let's see whether we're going to have that normal distribution curve. And in many other jurisdictions, you must standardize the exam. If we're told the normal distribution curve is not coming, maybe it's skewed on one way or another, you can be able to standardize. Whereby instead of C+, because right now we are told about 88%, 88,000.
88,000.
Yeah, C+ and above. That means they'll go to public universities. Even the private universities and parallel, they don't have students. So in this case, we can go to the law and change their regulations. So instead of saying C+, go to university, we can have Cs. The times 844 when it came, we saw even people going to university with Cs. People who are having C+ were even doing medicine. I know quite a number. So the issue is to standardize so that those people who could not reach the pass mark of C+ can even change the regulations. Even Cs can be able to go to university.
Probably the best way to understand this is through a proper audit of the exam.
Yeah, I don't see any problem with that.
For this, I agree with my colleagues. I agree totally with them that Matiang'i has done a good job. We have been watching the education sector, the way it has been going. We've been having a lot of problem of cheating all over. And some people have made money from that. Many schools, we know them, even in my place, Bahati. People from nowhere, cheating and making billions of the money. You see that some like members of parliament, they were taking their children in that school, and it was just cheating. And when they go, when they go in university, they don't perform at all. So I think Matiang'i has done good, and also I agree with them what Sosioni is saying. To audit or maybe to ask. Those it's allowed according to the Constitution, and maybe he's asking in a different way. Maybe also he is hiding himself somewhere. He want to know how did this miracle happen. Maybe he want to know that, but we should also know that the way the member of parliament have said here, he must be seen because he's presenting the teachers. He must be seen doing something. He is out of the demonstration for a long time now, from when Matiang'i came in. He is missing demonstration. He is missing those arguments, and maybe he can be sacked. Maybe they are just on a corner on the election. He must be seen working and presenting the teachers. So we should not get confused because of that. We know it is his line. We know what he is doing. We know why he's protecting his job. Like now, our members, if you touch where his politics, let me tell you, you hear him talking in all corners because it is his job. So he's also protecting, and he must be seen. By the way, you say politicians, we have a lot of politics. Let me tell you, in education, teachers. If you want to know where the politics is, it is with the teachers. So Sosioni must be seen doing politics with the teachers.
And of course, by extension, of course, even the cartels that have been behind this teaching, this cheating of exams, some of them have been run by teachers. And could it be that these cartels are trying to fight back and probably using Sosioni, whether knowingly or unknowingly, as their puppet?
You know, I have been brought up in an environment where we don't do shadow boxing. And I used to be a boxer in my youthful years, here in Ofafa Jericho in Nairobi, all the way, all the way to Mudhurwa, where we grew up boxing, and we don't like these things of shadow boxing. First, if we talk about cartels, these are very serious things, very serious allegations that we are making. And we should not hide behind things, behind some shadowy, faceless figures. If they are cartels, the cartels can be identified. I want to believe that we have got state machinery in this country that can zero down to the cartels and that can tell us that these are the cartels that have been behind the stealing of examinations. We cannot just place such things behind some kind of smoke screen, and that each time there is an issue, we raise the matter of cartels that are unknown, that cannot be touched, that have got no substance, no solidity. Then to also say that Wilson Sossion is looking for political relevance within the union, I think it's to trivialize a very important issue. There are questions of a fundamental nature which he has raised and which must be answered. English language is the language of instruction in all these schools in this country. How is it that children are able to get so many A's in other subjects across the board, but there isn't a single A in the language of instruction across the country, from Alliance High School to Eshiatsala Secondary School?
Where is that?
Manula.
Yeah?
Where is that?
Wherever it may be, that there isn't a single A in the language
English.
of instruction, in the English language. It means that there is a fundamental problem here that we must audit and get to the bottom of the issue. I think Matiang'i is doing a good job. But when you are doing a good job, you're also cautioned to be careful lest you should end up as a 7-day wonder. And people will start wondering once your balloon has burst, they'll start wondering what happened. We are aware that, say in Machakos, where they were marking CRE, the teachers were told, if you are not going to speed up your marking, we are going to release these results without CRE. And I dare them challenge me on this. I'm saying it on a public platform, and we can provide the proof that this is what happened. That you have released raw results. When you have marked papers, exams, and we teach people in universities, we have got external examiners who come and look at them. The exams are calibrated because the university must be matched against other universities elsewhere in the world.
Are we questioning the speed with which the results were released?
There's something precipitate about it, and I smell politics in this, that you want to say that we are now so efficient that where exams used to come out over such a period, we are now telescoping that time and it's coming out within such a time. Exams cannot be released in a raw manner. They must be calibrated, they must be moderated.
Analyzed.
We must be able to release subject by subject results. Ask them to present to you subject by subject results. They are not there. It was not calibrated. And this raises fundamental questions. If you are trying to improve a system, you are not going to improve it by generating new problems.
Wow.
Yes,
Before that,
okay. I just wanted to say that I don't want to disagree with anybody, any of these panelists, because
Please do.
we are expressing ourselves. But I just want to comment about the skewedness of the results, because there's this thing which have been circulating that the result was skewed once I left, meaning that there were more failures than A's and B's and C's and so forth. I think a normal distribution arises from an analysis of a normal sample. A normal a sample which has been statistically sampled, and also...
Can you say it in a language we can understand?
Okay, fine. The other thing is, I want to say that the numbers we can come out if the conditions in all these high schools was almost the same. They may be the running exam, the running conditions, the access, and so forth. So this is not happening. It was not happening. So you don't expect a normal distribution this time. The other thing is that when you do a research, that Chris is a researcher, the most important thing in the research is the conceptual framework. And this framework has got the dependent variables and the dependent variable. For this case, the dependent variable is performance. But actually, the dependent variables were not exhaustive. Things like leakages were not factored in it. So some people could benefit through leakages even after putting less effort in work. So when you say that there was no normal distribution, I would have been surprised if there was any, because the situation was no near normal. So what we have received from last year's performance, which was last year's results, is actually a baseline situation of what is happening on the ground in terms of examinations. And this curve is supposed to move towards normal as time goes on, as the conditions, the ground becomes normal, we reduce leakages and corruption in the education sector.
Okay. I think the distribution we saw, it was not a sample. It was the entire population.
Yes.
It was the entire population,
Yes.
and it reflects what happened. And to me, Matiang'i has done well, and want to encourage him to move to universities, because we are having big problems in the universities. We used to have issues of conduct hours. I see particularly many politicians. They've not gone to class. They're getting degrees. Another one is doing, I don't know, masters. But when you ask them a basic, simple question as far as research is concerned, they don't know anything. So to me, if the reforms that Matiang'i is bringing are going to add value, let them be extended to universities. Particularly, you find somebody not qualified to have that minimum C+ to go to university, and he has a degree. So we support Matiang'i, particularly even revoking those people who got degrees which didn't follow the due process. It is very, very wrong.
Quite a number of your colleagues do fall in that
Absolutely, it's not just our colleagues, it's cutting across the board. We're having people coming in,
Even
rushing,
governors.
conduct hours. You know, I remember the time we were doing our first degree, you must have attended class some minimum hours before you're allowed to do the exams. In this case, somebody has never been seen in class. You ask some people who are your classmates, they don't know them. Who was your professor, they don't know them, and they've graduated. I saw some other friends of mine. He told me, you know, Mheshimiwa, I'm going to be the governor in 2022. Why? Because I'll have finished my degree, I'll have started my master's. So really, we really need reforms like yesterday when it comes to the universities. A student is doing the same degree, let's say law, and maybe it's another university and another university, the exam should even be the same. If you are doing the same faculty, the same course, and that's why School of Law is doing very well. And I support School of Law people. For you to go there should be subjected even to some exams.
Well,
so this is something that we want the reforms. We want to support Matiang'i for this, and obviously not everybody will be happy, because we have some people who have been having these shortcuts.
Yes.
Yeah.
But he should probably consider what Sossion is asking for.
And by the way, I'm telling Matiang'i not to fear. If there was nothing fishy that was being done, let an audit be done.
Okay.
Absolutely.
The headline as it is right now on the front page of the Standard, the top strip, Matiang'i, where there will be no KCSE results audit. You can read that story is on the page 3 of the Standard. Also on the Daily Nation, it features as well on the front page, results reflect reality, says CS. He defended the KCSE results and vows to put in place more systems to protect the integrity of exams. Let's now take a look at what is happening today. The IEBC nominees for chairperson and commissioners of the IEBC, they're going before the National Assembly's Justice and Legal Affairs Committee for vetting today. We are aware that there is a petition in court to try and stop that process from happening. That was filed by former CEO of the Law Society, Apollo Mboya. So if at all it goes through, probably the vetting will be postponed, will be put off for a while. But as it is, and this story is, I think, on the back page of the Daily Nation, yes, and the main point of contention, if I could pick one of the quotes there, it has to do with the, and they're calling it Chiloba-Chebukati conflict. Yes, regional balancing, that the CEO of the IEBC Secretariat right now, Ezra Chiloba, comes from a particular part of the country, and the nominee, the one nominee for the position of chairperson of the commission, also comes from that same area. And of course, given the nature of our politics, and this is reality, whether we want to hide from it or not, it seems to be a problem. Do you think that will feature, if at all, the vetting starts today? I'm sure in a short while we'll be taking a short break, but we can start this discussion. Bonamalo.
Yeah, let me be the first one to start, because the purported CEO or the chair, they come from Trans Nzoia County, where I come from.
Both of them?
Absolutely.
Yes. And
I want to defend that. I want to be on record. Because first, even when you go to the AGs, the Attorney General, Professor Githu Muigai, comes from Kiambu. He's a Kikuyu. The Solicitor General is the same. And when you look at the qualifications, the criteria at which they were using, there was nowhere it was written that you must not come from Trans Nzoia County just because the CEO comes from there. Chebukati won this because the way he presented himself. And when it comes to vetting in Parliament, we have the parliamentary approval vetting criteria which is there. That is what they are supposed to look into. That is the criteria that provides a guideline. You cannot go and create another guideline somewhere that because so and so they come from the same region. It is a coincidence. And these people passed. Chebukati presented himself very well. Matters of integrity, matters of academic qualifications. There was no way it was written that if the CEO is from here, you should not be the one.
And if I may
so
play,
as far as I'm
play the
concerned,
devil's advocate, because yes, you say that, but if at all, let's say...
I've not finished. I wish you could give me a second.
I'll come back to you,
Yeah.
Because it's your argument that I want
Yeah.
to challenge. If at all, let's say the CEO was coming from Kiambu, as you say, the AG's office is
and the
aligned with
Solicitor
that,
General,
and the
yeah.
Solicitor General.
So there's no big deal. They are working.
Because they're coming from Trans Nzoia, if the CEO was coming from Kiambu, and then we had this nominee for chairperson from Kiambu as well, do you think the country would be very welcoming to such a combination to run the electoral
There will
commission?
be demonstration.
Yes.
There will be demonstration on the roads. But for me,
By who?
I'm a Kenyan. By the other tribes, like you, Luyas. Me, I have no problem for them being elected, whether it's a Luya or what. I'm looking for qualification, which is
Absolutely,
there.
yeah.
That's what I'm looking.
Yeah.
Neither is number one, number two, let's look for qualification.
But gentlemen,
when you come to the, now even in the parliament,
Yes.
you see we shall take tribal line.
Yes.
When you come to the parliament, that's how it will be. Because you want to be seen supporting that person because he comes from Luya, so that you can be elected. Because if you don't support, you are reflecting yourself politics on the ground. That's how it is, the reality in the parliament. But it's so important, if somebody is qualified, neither is a Luya, or neither is the chairman and the CEO. Me, I have no problem
We
with
are
that.
not questioning the
We have no problem with
qualification
that
of
at
this
all.
gentleman.
Yeah.
But when it comes to our politics and the nature of our politics, it's so tribal. Yes?
very bad.
And of course, there will be arguments for and against such a combination. You really want to say it's not going to be an issue when it
No,
comes
as
to
far as I'm concerned,
running of the next election?
As far as I'm concerned, it's not an issue. It's not an issue because these people, they qualified because of what they presented. Chebukati in this case, he's coming. Chiloba was already there. So let's not talk about the issue of Chiloba. If the issue was that they don't want Aluya to be the chair, they should have specified in the advert so that he doesn't waste time to apply. In this case, they followed the criteria and he qualified. We're not looking at the tribes. Okay? So as far as I'm concerned, this issue is insignificant.
Okay.
Those people want to polarize the matter. I mean, we'll be there to tell them off.
But
and if Chebukati has the qualifications,
Yes.
what it takes, and we are assured if Chebukati is there, we'll be assured of free and fair and credible elections, so be it.
Problem.
Again, we took so long to come up with the selection panel, not even the IEBC commissioner, the selection panels, so that we preempt some of these problems, including regional balancing. Yes? So when they actually bring such a problem after such a long process, do you feel the selection panel did us justice?
I think first and foremost, I would like to associate myself with the views of my colleagues that the most important thing to consider is qualifications and the ability to perform a certain task which is assigned to somebody. But that having been said, we cannot also ignore the environment, which also has an effect on our outcome. If you look at this issue of IEBC, right now, is the most sensitive issue in this country. If it's not the top, it's going to be number 2. It's an issue which cannot be taken casually. It's an issue which all of us as leaders, politicians and otherwise, should be able to bite the bullet and say, if we are going to have this situation, this scenario, we may be creating room for suspicion, room for people saying that these people stole election, or this and this. So I think for the interest of stability of this nation, let us take the IEBC issue as a special issue that requires concessions, that requires people to give way to others so that we can have the real face of Kenya.
Yes. But do you agree that probably the selection panel did not do justice, if at all they did not perceive that such a problem would occur?
First, I'm told that the list that we have been given as the public is not the list that the selection panel preferred. that these are completely different persons. There are people who have got integrity issues.
But they were still shortlisted by the same selection panel.
They were selected, yes, and they are there. We have heard that someone who came almost second last has been given an opportunity, while those who scored even better are not there. But that's not even the issue. The issue is that I'm quite often confounded by the doublespeak in this society. That I've got with me here the privilege of sitting with the members of parliament who are saying that they care about perception issues within the IEBC. And the biggest perception issue before the IEBC vis-a-vis these elections are the laws which the president signed into existence yesterday. And that we had people in the National Assembly who had the opportunity to interact with these laws. Maybe they are not such bad laws, but the process that brought them into existence is a process that does not help us to build cohesion. It's not a process that helps us to build confidence in the IEBC, that someone could even say that Jubilee gave the IEBC these laws and the IEBC presented them before the Justice and Legal Affairs Committee, and then Jubilee embraced them and brought a show of might. You know, when you bring a show of might before the House of Parliament and members are caused to walk because a certain law must be put in place, that is what is going to cause problems. It's not a question of having two people from a certain community. And I want to confess that I'm from the Luhya community. I want to confess that there are times, even in spite of my trying to be very objective, I cannot help at some moments to feel as if there's that marginalization and start wondering and saying, what is wrong when two Luhyas are also appointed somewhere? When we know very well that there are so many people from certain communities in certain institutions, one after the other, one after. So that's not an issue.
It's not an issue.
On the selection panel,
briefly.
maybe I mentioned something on the selection panel. First and foremost, we need to see how this selection panel came in. Initially, the Code Coalition, which I belong to, we wanted to front the IPPG, the IPPG model. But unfortunately, the IPPG model did not take off. The issue here was to get the religious bodies to nominate these people. And the selection panel was nominated by the religious bodies. And to us, we have some trust that these are people of God, and obviously, they'll nominate people of integrity. I have no doubt about that, because we had the Catholic Church, we have the NCCK, we had the Muslim, everything was done. So as far as the election panel is concerned, I have no problem. It was above board. And also, the Code Coalition had an opportunity to nominate two. The Jubilee side had also an opportunity to nominate two. So in this case, all these people, as far as selection panel is concerned, I want to say it was above board.
Okay.
And coming to the chair, you know, in line with the Parliamentary Approval Act, you have to put this in the papers so that any public that has any problem could take a petition through an oath.
To the Justice.
From the records, we are told there was no petition at all, or maybe some memoranda was taken, maybe challenging issues of leadership, issues of integrity. So as far as I'm concerned, those people who have been nominated, particularly the chair, we've not had any memoranda. Okay. Because you put it in the papers, anybody who had a problem, maybe with Chebukati or whatever, should have taken a memoranda to the jailer committee. Okay. So far we are told there's nothing wrong. That means he's above board.
And that's why the electoral nominees will face the House Justice and Legal Affairs Committee today. The committee is to scrutinize the candidates selected for chairman and commissioners' posts. We'll be following that the proceedings very closely. Time now to take a short break. When we return, we'll be discussing this issue. And of course, Barak Muluka, you brought it up. The president signed the now, I could call them contentious election amendment bill of 2015. He signed it into law yesterday. We'll be discussing that, as well as governors versus the central government of Kenya. Two governors from the coast region, that is Kingi from Kilifi and Hassan Joho from Mombasa, had their VIP security withdrawn this week. That and a lot more when Power Breakfast returns.